Hey, it's Bitty Penny. Welcome to my channel. Today we are rewinding to June 2024 sheet load of cards, and I'm making half a sheet load with you today. I am using a color box, a color cube card, this one, and I'm going to use some supplies from my stash that I haven't gotten to use yet. So hang out with me. Let's make half a sheet load. It's going to be so much fun. And this is a collaborative hop. So watch the playlist and you'll see all the different videos and what people are doing with the Sheetload Rewind for this month. So this is a Sizzix product. It's 66763. Is the number. It doesn't have a name apparently, but it's stamps and stencils, layering stencils. I think it's kind of newish to the product line, and I had recently picked two up. Call Me Crafty Owl loves these color cubes and using them. So this is a nod to her. And I thought, I have the color cubes. I never use them. Let me combine these two things and make my cards today. And I had a blast. Now, I'm going to pick colors kind of similar to these, but not really. Like, I actually really love the tone of the colors from this color cube, but I didn't get it quite right. So that's okay. You know, you just use what you have, right? So I took some heavyweight cardstock and I cut it down to 5x7 pieces. I'm making 4 5x7 cards, and these are going to be my card fronts. I went ahead and cut them down to a 5x7, and then I kind of carefully tore each of the 4 edges because I want them to be torn. And I did it before I stenciled, but on 2 of them, but then the other 2 I did it after I stenciled, and guess what? There's no difference. So you can tear them before you stencil, you can tear them after you stencil. It made no difference. But I did try to keep it so that, you know, I'm keeping the general size of the shape and just giving myself a border. Now each one of the layers has a number. This is number 1. There's a 2 and a 3, and I got out, you know, a light, medium, and dark pink ink. Now I thought these were supposed to be pink, but they're a little more red than pink. So wasn't the color palette I was going for, but it gives me the general basic idea. So I'm going in with my lightest color first, and this is stencil number 1, and I'm going to stencil that on all 4 of my card fronts. Then once I have that done, I bring in stencil number 2 and my medium shade of ink, and now I'm going to stencil that all over my card front for the most part. I did leave some areas a little lighter than others. Some I made a little darker. This is definitely kind of a distressed pattern, so I didn't need it to be like equally blended across the whole card front, although you could totally do that. So these are the results. Now I'm going to show you some variations. Once you move on to layer 3, I found it most useful to line the stencil up over the pattern that I had just stenciled. And what it does is it covers that layer 2 that you put down, if you line it up correctly. And then with this one, I went in with a dark gray because that is on my color cube card that I chose today, and I thought the contrast would be really cool. So I chose to use a dark gray here, and with that one, I did go all over everything. And this is the result. Now, you could also do that with just the 3rd layer of your darkest red, or supposedly pink. In this case. So it works just as well tone on tone as it does with the contrast of the gray, and you could just pick the one that you like. That's kind of the fun in making your own patterns paper. And this one, I only used stencil 3 in areas. I didn't cover the whole background. I only covered like 2 corners, and then this little edge needed a little touch up too. So I did go ahead and hit that with some ink, but I didn't do the whole pattern all the way across. So that's kind of the fun of stencils, is you really get to customize and make it your own. I used this stamp set and I used two different grays, a lighter gray and a darker gray. I used iced spruce and pumice stone. Pumice stone is the lighter of the two grays. And I kind of made myself this own patterned paper to go in the squares of the design here today. So yes, my card is fully based on the sketch of the month. And if you are interested, I am also using these Sheetload sketches in my junk journals to decorate pages. I had hoped to be able to do a rewind junk journal page here with you now, but I'll just have to throw that into a live video. But yeah, we've been playing with these card sketches and junk journals lately, and it's been so much fun to decorate blank pages. Now this is going to be the star of the show. Isn't she precious? This is from Red Lead Paperworks. I will have, if I can find links, I know I just got the stamp set, it's brand new. But if I can find a link to the stencils, I will put those down below. They're not terribly old. I just not sure that I can find it. I will look though. So what I did is I hit this piece of paper with my embossing buddy or my anti-static tool because I want to emboss these. So I stamp it out with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. It's a pigment ink. Any pigment ink can be an embossing ink. I sprinkled some gold embossing powder on these, and I kind of did a little hit and miss on a couple of them intentionally, and then others got covered more completely because that's just the way it is when you're working with embossing powder and embossing like 8 images on one sheet of paper. But for the most part, I was able to get hit and miss on some, and then others are more completely covered. And I decided to bring in my Tim Holtz watercolor pencils. What's great about these is that I did not emboss on watercolor paper. I don't even know what kind of paper it is. I have a stack of paper in my office that is mystery paper, and that's where this came from. But with the Tim Holtz watercolor pencils, unless it's photo paper, they work great as far as blending out, I've found, and you don't need a lot of water. So I colored all my yellow dresses, then I colored all my purple cakes, and then I'm gonna color all of my blue skies, kind of background, and I even gave them little rosy cheeks. So I did that to all of them, just coloring them up with the watercolor pencils, dry pencil, dry paper that's been embossed. When you are uncomfortable with watercolor, emboss your images. It helps keep everything in its place, and you don't have to be as precise. Now, I brought in a watercolor pencil and I just made sure it was clean, and I blended these out. So I blended out all the purple first, and I did that on all the images. Then I blended out all the blue, and then I blended out all the yellow. I have found that these watercolor pencils just blend beautifully. You don't need to go in heavy. You can touch you can color them very lightly, and you'll get a good payoff of pigment. They are not light fast, but don't worry. It's a card. And they're a lot of fun to play with. And I need to use mine more often. So I enjoyed coloring those images with those pencils. Now it's time for me to assemble. I cut this vellum piece of cardstock at 4x4, and then these strips here are 1.25 by, I think, 3.5. But you get all the cutting instructions you need from Call Me Crafty Owl's Sheetload. It is a free sketch that you get when you go to her channel. I'll leave everything linked down below, and it has cutting instructions and everything that you need. Now, I do like to make 5x7 cards, so I take her sketches and I usually convert them into 5x7 sizes. So once I have everything glued down, and now I'm going to glue this to my card base, I really liked that little border around the edges because it makes the torn edges kind of shine. I went into my stash, I grabbed this old Concord and Ninth stamp set, because it had party animal. And I was like, yes. So I built a sentiment that said, happy birthday, party animal. And I'm going to place it on my card kind of so that I can line it up and make it fit in a way that makes sense for my card. So I liked those stacked like that, creating kind of a square, and I stamped that off on one of my scraps from my 5x7 card bases. I keep those scraps that I cut off, and they are just so fabulous for sentiments. So I just stamped that in some Memento ink. Then I inked it with the pumice stone so that it matches the pieces of paper behind the girl. My little trio of cuts, and then I ink blended the sentiment, and I love the way it coordinates and matches and goes well on this card. They all feel very unified now by the time that I have my card put together. I popped up the girl and I'm popping up my sentiment. I don't know. I just like doing that. You could also mat them if you wanted to. But this is my card. I made 4. I believe the Sheetload makes 8 if you follow all the cutting instructions. But here are my 4 cards. I love the touch of gold. I really felt like I needed to color her in once I had embossed it, and I'm happy with the way these turned out. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's a link to the playlist, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye.